All right. Okay, thank you. Welcome, everyone. I'm ready to call the Helper City Council meeting to order. All city council members are present and accounted for. So moving on to agenda item number 3 is public comments. I have received 2 comments that I'd like to read into the record. The first is, the cemetery looked exceptionally nice this year for Memorial Day. I would like to thank Gary Harwood and his crew for all of their hard work. I would also like to thank Chris Gelati for supporting planning and zoning by investigating and taking care of code violations and reporting back to us on the progress he has made. I put my full support to Chris Gelati being appointed Helper City Chief of Police, and that is from Jean Boyack. The next comment was a petition regarding the Helper City Chief of Police, and it was to me, the mayor, as well as the council members of Helper City. This is just a small sample of Helper residents' voices, along with other individuals that have known Officer Gelati for many years. These voices are to elect Officer Chris Gelati as Helper Chief of Police, as the community feels safe and secure knowing his pride, honor, and outstanding professionalism, and that he will go above and beyond to protect all citizens. So with all due respect from the community, let's give Officer Chris Gelati a vote of approval. Thank you for your time and consideration, the voices of the community. And this petition was signed by approximately 110 people in Helper. So sharing that as public comments. There were no other comments made, so we'll move on to approval of the minutes from the May 7th, 2020 meeting. Council, have you had an opportunity to review the meeting minutes? Are there any changes or corrections necessary?
None for me.
I would make a motion to approve the minutes as written.
Okay, I have a motion by Council Member Harwood. Do I have a second to approve the meeting minutes from May 7th?
I second.
Have a second from Council Member Goldsmith. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Amanda?
Aye.
All right, thank you. Okay, moving on to agenda item number 5. I would like to request a motion to open the public hearing on transferring approximately 29.65% or $350,000 from the Electric Enterprise Fund to the general fund for the 2021 budget. Do I have a motion?
I would make a motion to go into a public hearing to transfer money from the Electric Enterprise Fund to the general fund.
Okay, I have a motion by Council Member Harwood to open the public hearing. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Have a second from Council Member Matsuda. Okay, we have now moved into the public hearing section of the meeting. We had not received any comments. Council, are there any comments from any of you that you'd like to share?
I've not heard any comments from any residents. Nobody has spoken to me about this particular issue.
Okay. If there's nothing else from council, I would like to seek a motion to close and approve the transferring of approximately 29.65% or $350,000 from the Electric Enterprise Fund to the general fund for the 2020-2021 budget. Do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Have a motion by Council Member Goldsmith. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Have a second by Council Member Matsuda. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay.
Aye.
All right. Thank you, Council. Moving on to Agenda item number 6, I would seek a motion to open a public hearing regarding the adoption of Resolution 2020-3 for the budget year 2020-2021. Do I have a motion?
I would make a motion to move into public hearing to adopt Resolution 2020-3.
I have a motion from Councilmember Harwood. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Have a second from Councilmember Goldsmith. We have now moved, all those in favor? Sorry.
Aye.
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 Okay. I believe that's everyone from council. So we've now moved into the public hearing regarding the adoption of Resolution 2020-3. No public comments were provided to me regarding this resolution. Council, have you had an opportunity to look at it? Do you have feedback or?
No feedback.
Okay. All right. Anyone else on council?
I just had a question on the fire department budget. There was just an increase for the purchase of equipment. I was just wondering what we were planning on purchasing this year.
I wonder if that was for the new fire engine
That
that we
could be.
purchased.
I just wanted to confirm that.
Yeah, we undertook that CIB/grant loan. So the budget would have gone up accordingly for the new engine, which we actually just took possession of a few weeks ago.
That makes sense.
Okay.
Hey,
Any
One other item on the fire department, it's also for the radios
Oh, okay.
and we need to replace our 4-gas monitor.
Okay. Any other questions or concerns? Okay. There being none, I would move for a motion to close and approve the adoption of Resolution 2020-3 for the budget year 2020-2021. Because this is a resolution, I will need a voice vote by each council member. So Councilmember Harwood.
Do you have a motion yet?
Oh, sorry. I need a motion.
I'd make a
so
motion. Yeah, go ahead, Mallory.
I said I so move.
Okay, I have a motion by Councilmember Matsuda. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Harwood. And now we'll do a roll call vote. Councilmember Harwood,
Yes.
Councilmember Matsuda,
Yes.
Councilmember Wheeler,
Yes.
Councilmember Archuleta,
Yes.
Councilmember Goldsmith.
Yes.
Okay. Moving on to agenda item, public hearing and adoption of Resolution 2020-4 for amending the budget year 2019-2020. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve that amendment.
Okay, I have a motion from Councilmember Wheeler to open the public hearing for Resolution 2020-4. Do I have a second?
I'll
Second.
second.
Okay, I have a second by Councilmember Matsuda.
I lost the amendment.
Okay, so now we are moving into the public hearing. I've not received any comments to share with the council. Council, do you have any feedback regarding Resolution 2020-4?
No.
No comments? Okay. All right. That being the case, I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing and approve the adoption of Resolution 2020-4 for amending the budget year 2019-2020. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion. I so move.
Have a motion by Councilmember Goldsmith. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Have a second by Councilmember Matsuda. Because this is a resolution, we'll have to do a voice vote again. Councilmember Harwood,
Yes.
Councilmember Goldsmith,
Yes.
Councilmember Matsuda,
Yes.
Councilmember Archuleta,
Yes.
Councilmember Wheeler.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Moving on, we are to agenda item number 8, which is the appointment of the new police chief as presented in May. I have presented Chris Gelati for that position. Do I have a motion?
I would make a motion to appoint Chris Gelati as police chief.
Have a motion by Councilmember Harwood to appoint Chris Gelati as police chief. Do I have a second?
I'll
I'll second the
second.
motion.
Have a second by Councilmember Wheeler. All those in favor?
Aye.
Yes.
Okay. Do I need to do a voice vote on this, Jonna?
You
Do a voice vote.
Okay, I will. Okay, Councilmember Harwood,
Yes.
Councilmember Wheeler,
Yes.
Councilmember Matsuda,
Yes.
Councilmember Goldsmith,
Yes.
Councilmember Archuleta.
No.
Okay. All right, motion passes. Thank you. Moving on to agenda item number 9, which is approval for 2020 certified tax rate of approximately 0.013440. Jonna, do you want to speak to this?
This is just a guess on the tax rate. It hasn't quite been set yet by Carbon County. It's something that we have to approve every year. And I just kind of guess from last year, it might be up a little bit, but it'll be really close to that amount.
Okay. Questions from council?
Is this on property tax or?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes, it is. Yes.
Any other questions, council?
Jonna, do you have the rate it was last year?
Rate from last year.
I believe that's what exactly that is.
Okay.
Okay. There being no further discussion, I would entertain a motion to approve the 2020 certified tax rate.
I so move.
I'll make a motion to approve the 2020 certified tax rate.
Okay. I have a motion by Council Member Wheeler. Do I have a second?
I will second.
Have a second by Council Member Goldsmith. I kind of like the voice vote just so I make sure we hit everyone. Council Member Harwood, how?
Yes.
Council Member Wheeler,
Yes.
Council Member Matsuda,
Yes.
Council Member Archuleta,
Yes.
Council Member Goldsmith.
Yes.
Okay, we are now to agenda item number 10. Pam Giuliano has joined us today to discuss the pool and cemetery. Pam, can you unmute yourself?
Okay, am I unmuted?
You are. Thank
Okay, wonderful. Well, first of all, thank you for allowing me a few minutes of time on your agenda. I hope you got the revised version of my remarks. The first one was my unedited version. I inadvertently attached it to the email to Jonna. I want to visit with you about a couple of items. One in particular is related to the cemetery and having access for those with mobility issues. The second item is to discuss the potential of a limited or a soft opening of the Helper City Pool and the challenges and benefits associated with both of those requests. Before I get into this, I want to second the comment made by, I think you said it was Jean Boyack, but the cemetery looked beautiful this year, Gary. Your committee, your crew did an outstanding job. It wasn't just the lawn, it looked beautiful in general. And Joe and I sponsored a golf cart to help those with mobility issues get around at the cemetery. But one of the challenges was that the gates were locked, and so we really couldn't go to the vehicle to help those folks out of their vehicle. And I also had a couple of folks who just basically said, what would be really nice is if those gates were open, we could have access to drive our parents over to that site. They're not able to get out of a vehicle. So just to drive over around, in a one-way traffic loop to go over and see where those grave sites are so they can see the flowers. One of the ideas that came to mind while we were there was the possibility of maybe making that happen once a month. Whether that's with volunteer support, and I would be willing to commit time to be available so that we could open the gates in the morning, maybe from 9 to 1 o'clock, and then be responsible for locking that gate and returning the key to Gary or one of the staff members. But I think it speaks to our quality of life and the ability to allow our senior population and even our younger population who have mobility issues access to get into the cemetery. And the second challenge was that, and I didn't realize this, it was naive on my part to not know this, but the main entrance to the cemetery and the south entrance don't have a direct connection. So I was able to assist people from their cars in through the gate, then to get into the golf cart on the main area, but I couldn't drive the golf cart up to the north entrance because we couldn't get out of the gate, first of all, but there's no access there. So we talked about the idea of maybe, if you'll allow me to look into what it would cost to put maybe a path, a concrete path along the fence line that would be ADA accessible to the scooters or walkers, or if we had a golf cart, but just running along the perimeter of the fence line so we could have access from the main section of the cemetery to that south end of the cemetery, the new section of the cemetery. I suspect there'll be a little bit of labor that will be involved, more than a little bit, and cost for materials. But I would like permission from the council to do some research on that. So I want to start the conversation with the cemetery discussion on, and get your thoughts. How can we as community volunteers or the city and community volunteers work together to allow those gates to be open for seniors and people with mobility issues?
Council, any thoughts on how we can work together to accomplish this? I think Pam's right on when she talks about quality of life. I know, Gary, we spoke earlier and you said you were more than happy to open gates and have done that just being called, and we have people on call. So Gary, what are your thoughts?
we have on occasion on weekends and holidays and stuff, we have with prior notice made arrangements to get people in there. The problem with leaving those gates open or having those gates open on and not no one there, or even on Memorial, is it turns into a disaster. Even with one-way traffic, there's always somebody in front that stop and delaying the people in the back, and they're going around them. And then you end up with people on the grass in their car, running over stones that they don't see, running over sprinklers they didn't see. And that just becomes a big problem.
Gary, you know, I agree with you, and I appreciated your comments when you and I had a conversation. I thought your offer to open gates and that you've done that in the past, I think that's wonderful. I appreciate that you've done that. If we had the ability to open the gates and maybe have access either with, I've been actually looking at what it would cost to purchase a golf cart and just leave it, you know, with the city, so that we could utilize it for that one weekend a month and maybe Memorial Day. And also looking at what the insurance would be and what the liability would be. But if it was a situation where we could have volunteer support on that particular weekend, and like I said, it's not that it has to be all day, but maybe from 9 a.m. to 1 o'clock in the afternoon on a Friday or a Saturday, and have the ability to meet those individuals at their vehicle and then drive them or have their family member take them. I agree with you. I think there's a risk involved with allowing a vehicle, especially, you know, oftentimes if we're, well, I'll just leave it at that. Sometimes there are challenges with having vehicles, and I certainly wouldn't want to support something that would be risky with having damage to headstones and sprinklers. But if we
Yeah,
have,
and I'm okay if we were to get a couple golf carts, that would be awesome. We use them for you know, a number of events that we do.
yeah,
Our one of our issues with having that is someplace to store them. We're out of storage also. So, but yeah, they would come in handy.
may I ask permission then from the council and Mayor Peterman? I would like to meet with Gary and just go over some thoughts and ideas and maybe how we can address the storage and acquiring a couple of the golf carts, because I agree, I think you could use them for First Fridays or Electric Light Parade or any art festival, any number of events. And then of course for Memorial and you know, that weekend a month, if we could get that scheduled. Gary, the other thought I had on that is a while back when I served as a nonprofit director, we had high school students that would come and volunteer on either at the cemetery to help place flowers or you know, drive the seniors on Memorial Day, and they would earn service credit hours. And maybe we can engage some of our students to help us with that too. I don't know your thoughts on working with high school age students, but I'm committed to this. I watched a couple of family members that drove from Salt Lake and had the hardest time trying to get from their vehicle just over to me, that, you know, I'm gonna be there one day. So
In years past, we've used high school students to and
yeah,
junior high students to drive the golf carts. We've had 3 or 4 golf carts up there
mhm.
and had on rotating shifts, had the student government body up there working them. So yeah, that's something we have done, and we've done it
Okay.
for many, many years.
Well, if the council and Mayor Peterman, if you're okay with that, I'd like to not belabor this point any further and meet with Gary. Let's see if we can find a collaborative solution that involves both volunteers, Maybe I could look at some grants to see if we could address the access so that we can connect the main entrance to that south entrance for accessibility, and report back to you in a month or so and see on my findings. Is that acceptable?
Sure,
I think
Pam.
that's great, Pam. And also, I'd like to add, like when you and Gary are talking, I'm more than happy to help you guys out as needed. So pull me in when you need me. And also, I would recommend that when you guys are talking, keep in mind that we're looking to expand the cemetery probably within the next 5 years. And so at that point in time, we should really look at pathways also when that gets ready to happen, and maybe start having discussions now and be able to plan in a very thoughtful manner.
Yes, I'd like to do that. I'd like to address the kiosks, the path, and maybe some identifying markers for sections.
Absolutely.
Well, we've done that already, Pam. We've already got streets named. We just need to get some money for some
Awesome.
signs. We've already looked at doing something with the kiosk. We know it's a little lacking. So yeah, some of that stuff we're doing.
Well, I'm happy to be a part of that. And this is why it's important for community members to engage, because you've already been part of that. You're moving forward with it, and I'm just learning about it. So it's not like we need to reinvent the wheel. Just plug us in as volunteers where you need help. So I'm looking forward with for the opportunity to work with you. I'd like to move on to my second request. I know that we are dealing with an incredibly unique time in our lifetimes, and both in our community, our state, our nation, globally, in addressing COVID, and how we start looking at the world in a new and differing process. I'm actually sitting in a parking lot in Salt Lake at the coffee shop because everything's closed. You can get your coffee, but you can't go inside, after a day of meetings where we've been gloved up and masked up and 3 seats apart in between each person at our meetings. So we've got a lot of learning to do, and I completely respect that. I also respect that our budgets have been hit pretty severely. The revenue from sales tax is down because we have restaurants and storefronts that have been closed, and so that economic revenue has not been generated. And as we begin to reopen, I'm looking at opportunities for, again, quality of life, but safe access for our children and our families to utilize not just parks, but the pool as well. And in looking, we have this beautiful pool that we went to CIB and got a loan for, and that we are paying on, and trying to figure out how we go about maybe with a soft or a reopening, whether that's scheduled reservations, as some pools are doing, that you limit it to, I call ahead and reserve the number of people for that day, so that we're at, not quite the full capacity, but how we do that. How we as community members can help sponsor a portion of that cost, whether it's through sponsoring passes, offering donations, doing something similar to what they do with baseball fields, which is selling the sponsor signs and maybe placing those around the pool. I want to engage in the dialogue because I would love for it to be, just start to feel a little bit like our community is going to have an opportunity with families in our parks and our pools and our ball fields. And then also to talk a little bit about the liability and the responsibility to follow the governor's required guidelines and the state health department's guidelines as well. So I'll leave it there and just open it up to comments and questions, and help me understand how we can address budgetary and safety.
So Pam, this is Michelle, and I've talked to I've talked to people at the Jewish Community Center up in Salt Lake, which has a huge pool. And then I've also watched a webinar where somebody from the Provo pool spoke, and then also have read about the state's requirements and so forth and so on. So number one, until we get to a green level, we're probably not going to be able to open the pool. And I know that there are some other places that are open, but they're much bigger places. But number two, it's pretty much a financial situation. So, I mean, when we get to the green level, we can do the reservation thing, we can train lifeguards, we can do all these different things. But at the end of the day, we're going to be short thousands of dollars. And I want to put this into the record so that everybody in town knows that $3 a month that's on your utility bill, $30,000 of that goes to pay our loan, our CIB loan for this pool. So pretty much the majority of the money that we have in that recreation fund already goes to the pool, but it goes to the pool's loan. And then I looked really hard at our budget, and last year the pool cost us $74,000, and we brought in about $20,000. So there's like a $50,000 gap there, which in a year where we're not dealing with COVID, the city has stepped in and helped out. But with the cut in sales tax because of COVID, the slowing of our economy, the city is just not able, they don't have the funds to kick in for that. So at the end of the day, what we're talking about is that we have roughly $75,000 to run the pool for an entire year. And people in Helper need to know that even in the off season, after Labor Day, we still have to have chemicals for the pool. We still have to have electricity to keep the pool heated. We still have maintenance for the pool, and it's expensive. So people need to realize that, and that's what the $75,000 is that we're talking about. So if the community can come up with a way to make up that money, then I'm all for let's open the pool. We'll be very careful. We'll be on top of it. We will talk to the health department even more than we have already and do that. But we need to come up as a community. We need to come up with funds to run the pool.
Councilmember Goldsmith, couple of questions for you. So
Okay.
I reached out to Castledale, and then I reached out to one of the private clubs that was actually up in Salt Lake, and I understand their memberships are actually down too, and that's a problem. So it's a different component than a publicly run facility. What my understanding is most facilities run in the red anyway. They're not necessarily money makers, much like other public access facilities.
Right.
Right. So I understand that. I respect that. I'm wondering if there is a cost breakdown available that we could maybe look at to see what it costs during the summer months, so that we could try to address the expense for those summer months. And, if we're open from 12 to 6, versus 10 to 6, what that might look like. Because there's actually been a couple of ideas floated that maybe we could find community sponsors to help pick up that expense. We know, I think, as a community, we're kind of behind the curve. There's sales tax leakage on a good day, but when you're in a
Right.
pandemic situation, it's incredibly detrimental on sales tax revenue. So to better understand what that budget breakdown looks like, might be able to provide some information to us as community members to say, okay, if I need to raise $10,000 a month to keep that, get the pool open, and could we have volunteers commit to being at the front desk, taking the responsibility of the front desk away, but and just keeping the lifeguards. And I'm not saying I have all the answers. Let me get that straight. I'm far from it. This is simply dialogue. I'm hoping to engage to find a solution. I know there's a number of people who are asking questions about, we've committed to the expense of having a pool, and now we're not being able to use it. But my position really is, how do we do this safely? How do we not further impact our budget and maybe be able to help benefit a recreation budget through sponsorships? I've been looking for grants. There's not many available for recreational facilities under COVID. I thought maybe we could find some PPP money, and I'm not seeing anything there. Doesn't mean it's not there. Doesn't mean maybe I just haven't turned the right stone over. But give me some feedback on budget. What can we look at?
As far as
So,
volunteers,
go
Pam,
ahead.
we can't have volunteers collecting money. We can't have volunteers, collecting city money. So, and we can't have them in the chlorine room. We can't have them in the chemicals. We have to have a
Okay.
certified pool operator. So,
Okay. I can, that's a liability issue.
right.
Okay, gotcha.
Amanda?
Oh, I was gonna say, so it looks like the majority of the budget goes to employees and employee benefits. I do have some ideas. If we had less hours or less employees, that could save us some money in the budget. I'm just, voicing ideas. Let's see, what was the other? It looks like the next highest thing is utilities, and that is going to have to be what it is. I think,
That will
like
stay the
Kevin said,
same.
the pool runs, the chemicals run. We have to have that in there.
Sure.
We could not have concessions. That would save us about 10,000 if we didn't offer concessions.
That would be a good safety measure too, probably.
Yeah,
to
and
not
also
be-
it would require
COVID.
less employees because no one would have to run the concessions. If we could have sponsors sponsor the lifeguard swimming suits and their equipment, that would be helpful. But yeah, I think the biggest expense is employees. Last year we budgeted 52,000. Looks like we're on track to spend that. But yeah, this year our budget is 100,000 less for the pool, and that's a lot of money to come up with.
Yeah.
But that's an idea.
Right.
My concern was, and we just need to talk with the health department, is so the wave pool is open. My understanding is that it's by reservation, and they're only allowing 20 people in the pool at a time. And I would guess, I don't know, what do you think? The wave pool's maybe 3 times bigger, maybe 4. I don't know. Our pool just seems so much smaller. So I wonder what the number would be that we would even be able to be allowed to have in the pool at a time. Because you have to be able to maintain social distancing guidelines.
Right.
So I think that would
Right.
be
Amanda,
too.
Amanda, do you remember what the capacity is for the pool from last year? I don't remember.
I can't
The
recall it.
200
Gary
number.
might know.
I was actually comparing our pool closer to Castle Dales than the wave pool. And I
Okay,
don't
our
know.
pool capacity is 200 people,
Say that again?
200 people.
200. Now, that's on a normal year, so if we're gonna do half,
I wonder what the wave pool's normal capacity
I
is.
don't have any idea what
Yeah.
theirs is.
I mean, just to get a
Well,
comparison,
it doesn't-
it would just be up to the health department, I think, you know?
Well, it's
So my
based on the
understanding
size of the
is
pool.
you're roughly 50%. So I think you're right, Gary. We're looking at on a good day, 100 people could use the pool. And then when they sign in, you have them sign a release. You have them put their identification number so that if somebody does have the virus, you can call them and say, oh, somebody was at the pool who had the virus. So I mean, there's those kinds of things that you're going to have to do. But so if the capacity is 200, it's probably like ballpark 100 people that can use the pool.
Yeah, but under the yellow, you can't allow that big of a group.
No. 'cause you
Right.
have to
So,
be able
well,
to
see,
maintain-
that's why I was,
So now you gotta cut it down to,
right.
to
Well,
about
that's why I was
20
saying,
people.
Gary, like, I wouldn't even think about it till we got to the green level.
Right.
correct. And by the time, if we go to green, then we're looking at June and we close it in another 2 months or a month.
And we
I
have
think
to
July.
hire.
I would like to explore it. I think one of the challenges, and perhaps you've heard it, but I think one of the challenges within the community is just hearing flat out the answer is no because I said no. And I'm not arguing that. I'm not arguing that we should be doing this if we can't practice those safety measures of when you go to green, if it's 50 people and social distancing, and yet still addressing expense for opening. But I do think, as I said earlier, for quality of life and to be able to explore what options there are, I think it's worth a discussion, even if it's open only for 2 months. What does that look like on a budget breakdown? And then again, I agree with you, Gary. Now hearing what you're talking about liability, I think you're right. We shouldn't, as volunteers, be handling money or be managing cleaning of the pool. But I certainly think there's other areas that we can help pitch in that would reduce the cost of, that employee expense.
Mhm.
And let's explore that. And further, the sponsorship of whether it's having a sponsor that would kick in for passes or to Amanda, I think you were the one that mentioned the pool or the lifeguards equipment. I mean, that's something that I think is a practical, I'd be willing to sponsor that. Anything with safety, let's take a look at it. But just to say flat out no, that's where you get people's cackles up.
Most of the lifeguard equipment we already have. We usually buy
Well,
new
I know
suits.
that,
We buy new suits for the new people, but everything else, the buoys, the floats, we've got all that.
Okay.
So
The
we just
pool
need to-
is critical to our quality of life, and I agree with that. I have 2 small children. We are terribly missing the pool. So I think Pam, I totally agree with you that we should look at it. And, I think it's fair to do a fundraiser of some type, even if we don't make it to green and we can't open, we can still use that to make improvements on the pool for next year or to use it to help offset the budget for next year. And I support you with that. And I appreciate you wanting to take this on and be helpful with it.
Yeah, you got me here for a few months, so we might as well put me to some good use. I'm not
We're
on
gonna
the road.
move to work, lady.
This is my first, I'm out of town one day a week where it used to be I'm in town one day a week. So,
Yeah, here we
and
go.
it's free and it's free. So,
Well, I think we have some questions for the health department, and we could be brainstorming some fundraiser ideas. I think that's something a lot of people would love to get behind. So,
well, in
So
closing,
Amanda.
Oh.
Yeah, so I'm asking Amanda if she has some time in the next few days where maybe she can meet with you and I, and we can look at numbers of what she had from last year for the summer and maybe make a game plan moving forward.
yep, and I'd be happy to help too. Michelle, I know you can't see us. This is Mallory.
Okay.
Okay, y'all can get together, but not all three of you.
yeah,
Right.
Just FYI. You're welcome to do that, but not all three of you. So
Well, we
at
can-
one time,
Okay.
yeah.
I can
just-
help with the fundraising efforts and stuff. And
Sure.
Amanda's well versed on the budget and all the operation part of the
Sure.
pool. She was over it for so many years.
Yeah.
okay. Well, in closing, I want to say thank you to Councilmember Goldsmith for taking a few minutes out of her day the other day and to give me some direction on how to put this ball in motion coming before the council, putting together some thoughts that I could share. I think if we've got an action item, we are now June 4th, and if we could find some time next week and really take a hard look at what does it look like for maybe doing if we needed to come up with $10,000 to open the doors the last week of June and then the last week of July that we would need another 10,000, maybe something like that. And I'm telling you, I have no knowledge of how to run a pool or a budget for a city or a municipality recreational event. I'm just saying, I'm in town. Let me help by rolling up my sleeves and trying to find an answer. And thank you to the council and mayor for allowing me a few minutes on your agenda this evening.
So given time constraints, the only counsel I would provide to all of you is if you come up with a plan that requires city approval, let's have a special meeting, because if we wait until July 2nd, there would be, almost like, why bother? So if you come up with something that requires city approval, let's get a special meeting called, because, closing the pool was not something that council nor myself was like, yay, let's do that. It was hard to do. And I often wonder if people realize the tough decisions that council has to make. And they were just trying to be financially responsible. And would love to see the pool open. I think I can speak on their behalf. I think all of them would love that. And I'm sure all of them are willing to participate in moving that forward. But don't let time get away from you, I guess. So if you have something, let's bring it back to council. Let's meet and let's get this moving, so to speak. Okay.
Okay, so I would say plan on a special meeting at some point in time before we hit the green level, if we get some fundraising things in place. So.
Okay.
One final thought on time. The state it's in right now, the condition that we're in right now with the pool, it's almost 3 weeks, 4 weeks to get it ready for swimmers.
Okay.
Oh, that's good to know. Thank you.
Okay.
Well, let's talk about that too. What does it take to get ready? I think that needs to be part of our discussion. But guys, game on for me. I'm willing to work with you in whatever capacity you see as a value add, and I'm on my way home. So see ya.
Yay. All right. See ya.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate your
Thanks,
time.
Sam.
Okay,
bet.
Okay.
so with that
Bye-bye.
being said, and there are no other agenda items in front of the council, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
We're doing council reports.
Oh, council reports. Sorry. We did put that back on. Sorry. Okay. Jonna, do you have anything? Are you there?
Okay,
No, Mayor.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Councilmember Wheeler.
I don't have anything.
All right. Councilmember Goldsmith.
Actually, I have a few things. So we have a cheer group led by Kayla Haycock that's, I think in July, she's going to be starting her cheer girls in the park. And then as things with COVID hopefully settle down into green, or as it gets colder, has requested to use the auditorium, but she's working really hard to provide some activities for kids this summer. So in addition, for the parks, I am looking at making some improvements on the Castlegate Park up right below the subdivision. Gary and I, and actually Pam Giuliano, have talked several times by email on what we would like for it to look like if any of the our residents up in the subdivision have some ideas. They can send a message to the city hall. I'm more than happy to hear about it. The long-term plan is to make this park a xeriscape where it doesn't need any water, but it looks beautiful. So we're looking at that. We're also looking at the Kurt Mascaro Park, which is down where the old Central School used to be. And we're looking to see what we can do to get the basketball court repaved and so forth and so on. So those are kind of some projects that are in the future. They're not going to happen tomorrow. As far as dark skies, we do have our dark skies designation. We got a card this week from Torrey, and I guess Torrey was the first place to be designated a dark skies city in the state of Utah, and they sent out this wonderful little card congratulating us on our designation. There was one dark sky event over at the campground. Tom Lund checked out telescopes from the library, and they were returned sometime this week. So Yard of the Month is progressing. Amanda's going to be putting a note on our on our city website, giving people direction on letting City Hall know if they want us to take a special look at their address or their place and so forth. This month's Yard of the Month, we have Michelle Fidel and Bob Olson over in Martin, and the Burnhams that are over by City Park are this month's winners on that. And then for buildings, so obviously our buildings are shut down right now, so there's really not a whole lot to report on. However, within this last month or couple months, we had the state historic architect come and look at the Catholic Church, which is on the state historic register. And of note is the parking lot with the auditorium, the way it is sloping is that water is heading for the rectory there. So the architect's recommendation was that the church have a conversation with the city and come up with a plan to move water in a different direction so that it does not flood the basement of the rectory. So at some point in time in the near future, we probably should have a meeting about that. And that's all I have to report.
Okay. Thank you, Councilmember Goldsmith. Councilmember Matsuda?
So I checked in with the museum director, Jason. I just wanted to see how they were feeling about being closed since we've now moved into the yellow phase. And they've requested to stay closed for the summer. They've actually been using this time to update many of our exhibits, and they've been working really hard on that. And he's also doing some consistent Facebook posts. I don't know if anyone's been watching those, but those have been really great to check out. So here's just an update from him on what they've been doing. He says, "We are working on many of the rooms to make the visual presentation stronger and more attractive and more organized. Many of the exhibits have not been touched for a couple decades at least, and we have so much great material. It needs to be showcased properly. Some things we have been doing is some of the walls have needed to be repainted and repaired. Many of the photographs have faded, and he's reprinting them archivally. And then organizationally, many of the exhibits he's been redoing them so that they have a different flow and a different feeling. And we're making the museum have more flow and continuity by moving some of the exhibits to the third floor, so that will all be cultural material. And then the second floor is all Cole Camp related. And we plan to include some displays with directions of places guests can visit after the museum, such as the Sunnyside Coke ovens, etc. So some tourism marketing stuff. We are renaming some rooms to honor longtime volunteers. For example, the Walter Borla Post Office Room, which I'm really excited to see. And I know that Walt donated a lot of the material for that room. And then, so just a list of rooms that have been worked on so far or that are in progress are the theater room, the Tecum Pratt exhibit, Union Room, Mine Disaster and Rescue Room, Cole Camps, the Walter Borla Post Office Room, Ron Jukes Kenilworth Room. I was happy to see that room being named after longtime volunteer Ron Jukes. The Aldine Thomas Heritage Room, and the Miners Shift Shots in Basement Hallway Club Room, the Police and Fire Department Room, and then Isabel has been she reorganized the entire library in the office there. So they've been hard at work, and they've been appreciating this downtime without visitors to make these updates that they've been wanting to do for a long time and haven't been able to get to. So we will look at reopening the museum this fall.
That's awesome, Mal. Anything else for you or?
That's it.
Okay. All right. Councilmember Harwood?
So I've got about 3 months worth of reports here, but I'm just going to kind of hit on some of the major ones. We've had a couple leaks on the Ash Road that we went out and fixed. We've had some power outages. A primary wire broke at the end of Janet and First West. So we'll be doing a major upgrade over there in next couple months. We did an upgrade on Duchesne Street, replaced every cross arm, transformer cutouts, insulators all the way down the entire street. Our bucket truck is really giving us fits right now. We replaced hydraulic hoses again, power steering pump again. That's probably about it.
Okay. I think Councilmember Archuleta has, is she there? No? Okay. All right. Well, with that said, thank you for your reports. Thank Jason for his ongoing work on the museum. I'm sure when that opens up, it's just going to be amazing for the community and our guests. So with that said, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Have a motion from Councilmember Harwood to adjourn. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Have a second from Councilmember Goldsmith. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Meeting adjourned. Thank you for your time.